A lot of Europeans doubt that there is enough space for Chinese civil society to flourish, and I think it's a legitimate point of view. At the same time, we know that there are reformers who want to give Chinese citizens more voice in public policy making and implementation. So by sharing European experiences through dialogue and cooperation, we can actively support Chinese civil society organizations.
Seven organizations from Europe and China have embarked on a journey of collaboration. They will implement 8 dialogues, 2 international conferences, and 16 participatory public policy initiatives.
With the rapid development of Chinese economy, the environmental issue increasingly attract people's concern. Human health are adversely affected by different kinds of pollution. It was sometimes hard for the public to strike for their own environmental rights in China in the past. However, the situation changed a lot these days.
Well, I think we've seen enormous progress in the last 20 years in defending environmental rights. We've seen progress in the law, we've seen progress in civil society, many NGOs who are working in this field, and also the people themselves. You see people taking action directly all over China to defend their environmental rights.
The second EU-China Civil Society Dialogue on Industrial Pollution and Environmental Health is held in Guangzhou this August. Some participants speak out their own concerns about the environmental rights defending in China these days.
The most important one, I think, is the access to information. So that, for example, if there are big infrastructural projects planned and just implemented, people have no way to participate or to get this information beforehand, or nuclear plants, they have no way to get information about the dangers of this energy source.
Well, there are limitations on Chinese media, and I think we all know what they are. If an issue becomes too difficult for the authorities, they will tell the media not to report it anymore in the name of social stability. It still remains difficult because the law is not always independent.
It's very difficult to check every vehicles. It's very difficult to go to every industry, every factory to check to make sure that there is no violation. There has been cleaning system in place. Okay, so that is one of the biggest issues. And you know, China is such a big country, and there are so many provinces, and there are like 1.2 billion people, and it's very difficult for the Chinese government to actually check on everybody.
On one side, there are enormous research done by both social and natural scientists and researchers, but on the other hand, the public doesn't really know the situation very well. The government is saying because the public doesn't really know, or they are not capable to know the true scientific evidence and the scientific base of decision making, so they are not very capable to be involved and take part and influence the decision making.
That's in China, most companies now profits oriented. But some companies, especially the top companies, they feel some responsibility in environmental health and safety issues.
So, media, government, NGOs, companies, and people themselves, is there any possible solutions to gradually improve this status?
So what we are doing now, and a couple of other Chinese NGOs like in Beijing and in other areas of China are doing, is trying to establish this kind of like linkage between the academia and the public in Beijing area and other places of China. And they produce this very vivid and active brochure to the public, so everybody could read and have a kind of correct understanding of the situation.
The biggest thing is that everybody must play a part, okay? Because the government could not do all this by themselves. Yeah? So if each and every one of us could play a part, when we see something that's not right, we could actually help to, make sure that this has been reported. Okay, we can become an extra set of eyes or ears for the government. It's up to the government. I hope the government will act on these complaints, But if we don't do anything, the government won't do anything, right? Nobody will do anything, and it just gets worse.
Well, I think that the international media are in many ways much freer to report. So in many ways, the international press is much more able to pursue those stories. And I think that reflects back into China also, because Chinese people sometimes read the international press and, they can find stories there that maybe are not published here. But I think that the other thing that I see growing tremendously in China is citizen journalism and the use of the internet and the use of Weibo and the use of blogs, which means that there's a much richer information environment than there used to be.
Will help companies to build their capability to improve their environmental management, health management, and safety management.
I think that if you look at this conference, one way is to have this dialogue to come to a very productive interaction between Europe and China. And from my perspective, it's not enough to have a conference like this very useful conference here now. It's probably only the starting point. The work has to be done after the conference, when both China and European NGOs have come together to look how they can collaborate.